Shalom, shalom. I'd like to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone. Peace, blessing, and safety to all the Hakim out there pushing this truth and sincerity, and to the believers out there. This is the brother Habadiar from the GMS Toronto camp, coming back at you with another one. And it's just gonna be a little quick hit, and it's just about being in the spirit, about doing how we have to do the work, be not slothful, and the reason why we're doing this work is to store up those treasures in heaven, because that's you know we're doing that in good faith, because that is our duty as prophets, to do the work, be out there, push the videos. And we're doing that so that the Lord may have mercy upon us. The Lord may have mercy upon us and deliver us, out of this sinful place. When Yahweh Shai comes to judge 2/3 of Israel, and to judge the rest of these nations in Esau. So that's just important. We gotta store up our treasures in heaven. So this is Matthew 6:19 in the NLT. Don't store up treasures here on earth, where moths eat them and rust destroys them, and where thieves break in and steal. So the average Jake, the average person, is just worried about the things of this life. They're worried about having the most money, chasing the bag, having the baddest girl, having the nicest whip, the freshest clothes, the biggest house. And there's nothing wrong with these things. There's nothing wrong with having a beautiful, attractive woman. There's nothing wrong with having a nice home or a nice car. But that's not where our mind is not focused on these things. Our mind and focus is on the word, and this truth. It's our focus is Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Because we're storing up. When we do the work, we're building up that spiritual bank account. And hoping, to hoping that we have enough funds, to get out of here, to make it onto those chariots. That's what we're hoping for. Because that nice whip, that nice girl, that good paying job, these things are don't bring salvation. These things are not gonna get you onto the chariot. First and foremost, you have to be the elect. You have to be of the elect, and whether you're, the Lord knows, who his elect are. And we don't know if we're of the elect. So that's why we're diligently doing the work, to make our calling and election sure, and praying and hoping that what we've done with this grace period was enough to gain salvation, to gain that crown, that will never rust, that will never fade away, that is everlasting, that is eternal, in the new bodies, and all the rest of the good things that come with salvation and making onto those chariots. Verse 20, store your treasures in heaven, where moth and rust cannot destroy and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there your the desires of your heart will also be. I want to get that word. What says for the word treasures? Just curious.
Strong's G 2344. Thesaurus. Thesaurus.
A place in which good and precious things are collected and laid up, a casket, coffer, or other respectable in which valuable are not kept, a treasury, a storehouse. It's basically, yeah. So we're laying up, we're laying up our works. The Lord is taking note of those who are doing so. Just sitting around knowing that you're an Israelite, that's not doing the work. That's being slothful. We have to, we have to do things. We have to push this word. We have to be faithful. This is Luke 12:33. Sell that ye have and give alms, provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in heaven that fulfilleth not, where no thief approacheth it, neither moth corrupteth. For where your treasure is, there your heart be also. So, that's where our mind is. Our mind is, our mind isn't caught up in the, in trying to, be on top. You know, how you gonna try to be on top when Esau is ruling? Doesn't make sense. You can only get so high. Our focus needs to be on Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Our focus needs to be on proving to our heavenly Father, that we are worthy to make it onto those chariots. Not everyone is gonna make it onto those chariots. Not all the nations are not gonna make it onto those chariots. Only the elect are gonna make it on. Only 1/3 of Israel, that special remnant is gonna make it on to those chariots. And we don't know if we're of the elect, but by doing the work, it's that's all you can do. You just do the work, and you just hope and pray and believe that that the Lord may find mercy upon you to make it onto those chariots. Gearing up for another new year, a big year. A lot of things happened in 2025, and a lot of things are going to happen in 2026. A lot of talk about, AI, that digital age. Probably, won't be surprised if you see, AI and the technology, go to the next level. Digital IDs. There's been a lot of talk about the digital IDs. Maybe the digital IDs will be made mandatory in the year 2026. And then when you get to the digital IDs, you know what's after that. You know what comes next? That MOTB. Because if everything's damn near digital, then what's left to put that in you, to make you a part of the digital ID? This is 1 Timothy 6 in the NLT. Teach those who are rich in this world not to be proud and not to trust in their money, which is so unreliable. Their trust should be in the Most High, who richly gives us all we need for our enjoyment. Yeah, that's the thing. People, especially, with social media and just everything, it's all about what you have. It's all about showing off. It's it's basically, like self-worshiping. Showing all that you have, flaunting it, and none of those things are going to be able to save you, on the day of the Lord's wrath. None of it. What car you got, how much money you have in your bank account. None of that is gonna save you when judgment is at your front door. Those are not those riches are not important. This word is what's rich. This truth is what's rich. This truth, it's never corrupted. It doesn't fade away. It's everlasting. It's all we need. It's all we need, to get through everything else. I don't, once you get a taste of this truth, your mind don't even. I don't even. I don't even think about how it would be without it. Even the other day, I was, flipping on my laptop. I was like looking at, back at old pictures, and I was just like thinking to myself, I was like, man, like I didn't know shit. It was wicked. It was lost. You know, yes, might have been having more fun. Quote unquote more fun in this world, but I was lost. Didn't know the truth. Didn't know the name of Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. None of that means nothing. I would never want to trade this truth to go back and enjoy those enjoyments. you know? And and that's the thing. And that's why, that's why the Lord is a power of balance. Because some of us, we got a taste, of the things of this life. And now that we got a taste of the truth, you get it, you understand both. You've been through both, you know? And damn sure don't want to go back to that, you know? Verse 18, tell them to use their money to do good. They should be rich in good works and generous to those who need it, always being ready to share with others. By doing this, they will be storing up their treasures as a good foundation for the future so that they may experience true life, eternal life, everlasting life. You know, people, you know, even now, like people do charitable things with their money, but that's not, that's not gonna save you. You know, most important thing is this word. This word is rich. This truth is rich. That's real riches. You know, and making onto those chariots, getting those new bodies. Being made perfect like Yahweh Shai. That's that's truly rich. That's the type of that's the type of rich I want to experience. I don't want to experience it on this side. I don't. Yeah, it's good to have money where you don't gotta stress. I get all that, but to truly be rich, to have spiritual powers, to have your own chariot, that's out of this world type of riches. Having the law, statutes, and commandments in our inward parts, being perfect, never going off. That's why we want the kingdom, man. That's why we want the kingdom. That's why we want Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. That's why we haste on the day when Yahweh Shai comes and returns, you know, and brings an end to Esau's rulership. It says Colossians 3:1. If ye then be risen with a Mashiach, seek those things which are above, where a Mashiach sitteth on the right hand of the Most High. Set your affection on the things above and not the things on earth. Yeah, that's what and some of those things are spiritual bodies, the chariots, never going off, never being sick, you know, being able to being able to, to look at our power, to see him, to walk with him, to hear, to hear him, you know, to be crowned by him, to shake his hand, to hear him, pat you on your back and say, well done. These are the things these are the things that we us of the hopeful elect, we meditate on. These are the things that make us, that put a smile on our face when we think of these things, to think, man, could I even be worthy enough to experience these things? Am I worthy enough to be one of those first, spirits ever created? You know, those are the things, it says, set your affection on things above and not things on this earth. Yeah, because the things of this earth is going to pass away, especially on Babylon the Great, aka America, and different parts of North America, down here in Toronto. This shit's gonna be done away with. This shit ain't gonna be around forever. Matthew 7:21. Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that do the will of my Father which is in heaven. So, storing up that, doing the work, storing up that treasure in heaven, doing the videos, being out there in the highways and hedges, not taking 3 weeks off, you know, coming in the correct names, prophesying about the downfall of this wicked kingdom, the doom and gloom that approaches, the MOTB. You know, these are all things that go into, you know, what the will of the Most High is. You know, if you're not doing these things, if you're not, you know, doing the work, if you're not having that kingdom mindset, that vision of the kingdom, then you're happy here. You like it here. And that's what we're seeing with a lot of these false teachers in Israel. They like it here. They don't want Yahweh Shai to return. They like their status. They like storing up their treasures here on earth. You know, they like flaunting around with their many women and their expensive cars and their nice homes. You know, but you know, those of us who are, you know, spiritually minded, you know, we ain't caught up in the things of this life. You know, yes, we need the you know, the bare essentials. You know, but we're not consumed by it. You know, because at the forefront of our mind is Yahweh Bashem Yahushai in the kingdom to come, and to see the downfall of our enemies in these nations. So, you know, just that's why I gotta, you know, store up those treasures in heaven, build up that spiritual bank account. So that's gonna do it for this video. I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakwadash, and double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone, the ones who teach 100% truth, and peace, blessing, and safety to all the sincere believers out there. Now, Lord willing, this video was edifying, and until the next one, Shalom.